This is Coda Radio, episode 47, for April 29th, 2013. You're listening to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode's brought to you by our fine sponsor, GoDaddy.com. I'll tell you more about them as the show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week for 47 weeks in a row is Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
Hey there, good morning, and if you do MVVM, I'm not speaking to you this week, so go ahead and turn off the feed.
I know, you guys, seriously, because he doesn't want to hear about it. He's done. He's had it. He's had a rough morning.
It's over. We're done here.
All right.
Obama might have a comment, but he's probably too slow.
Obama? Oh, no, he's standing right here. All right, Mr. President, do you want to come back in here? Yeah. What was that?
He's a jackass.
Oh, turn off his mic. Turn off his mic right at the beginning of the show. Jeez, Obama. Mr. Dominic, other than the difficulties you've had in writing applications for Windows RT, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Let's see, New Jersey near the shore is, of course, dreary, rainy, and cold, as is fitting the state of New Jersey.
It is beautiful here today. I'll tell you that. That's probably the only thing that's keeping me going, because I have had one of the most knockdown weekends of my life. I'd say top two sicknesses of my life.
You got the conference flu.
You know, it hit me at the conference, and it was. I think I got it before the conference, but it hit the day, and it was like the smell and the heat.
Now, what conference were you at? For people who wouldn't know,
LinuxFest Northwest.
Is that an open source conference?
It is. Yes.
So I remember a man named Steve in the '90s said that it was an infection, a disease.
Yes. Yeah. He was. You know what? He was a little.
It's negative in the freedom dimension.
It's actually a really cool conference. It's put on at the Bellingham Technical College up in Bellingham, Washington, and they just had a new facility this year. They hooked us up with a booth, and we were a media sponsor for LinuxFest Northwest, and we streamed all day Saturday. We had people coming by the booth and talking with us, and we had some awesome guys who showed up. Noah and Alex, they drove 7-8 hours. Some of them flew. Some of them came in, guys from all over the place. Getting footage out on the floor, and
right.
I was there behind the booth all day. But then about lunchtime, I started to not feel very good. And, people started bringing food by the booth, and it started hitting me real hard. And then I spent the rest of the day in my truck. And I won't go into too much details of what was going on in there, but it was awful.
All right, let's go to some feedback.
Yeah, let's do the feedback, and then I think maybe we're going to talk a little about conferences today, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We got some great feedback, though.
Yeah, we have a ton of you wrote in about your home offices, many of you in interesting detail, and I will reply to you. So fair enough. It turns out a lot of our listeners work at home at least part-time, and a surprising number of them have mini fridges in their office.
Oh, awesome. I would too if I didn't have so much audio equipment in here, because I need all the power ports I can get.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have so many computers, I'm running out of power ports.
Yeah, and then I have audio hums I have to worry about when I'm on the same circuit and stuff, but I've always wanted a mini fridge.
So that was nice. On a more confrontational note, our good friend Nicholas, who writes in sometimes, I believe it's the same guy, asks, quote, if you guys believe in the open web, why are you not using Firefox?
Shebang. I get this question a lot.
Yes, so do I. I have an answer, but yours is probably nicer.
Oh, no, I want to hear it. Go. You're all fired up.
Firefox isn't relevant.
Oh! Well, I did not expect that. I got to tell you, you know what you are a little bit today? Curmudgeon. Well, okay.
It was a bad morning of C# and MVVM. I'm just not feeling.
Well, hold on. Firefox still has a massive market share.
Yeah, but they're not different enough for me to actually go out of my way to worry about Firefox in most cases. And they're not, no one's calling me saying, we want a Firefox specific, HTML5 app. They are calling saying we'd like a WebKit specific HTML5 app.
Oh, you're coming at this from the mobile angle.
No, not even mobile. I'm coming at this from the kind of things they want to do are generally WebKit focused. I guess it is mobile. I mean, they want to be the same app that runs virtually everywhere.
I think this is a conflict in headspace that we have in the audience. There is a huge percentage of our audience who thinks and sees the entire world through the lens of the desktop. And then there is another portion who sees the world through the emerging market and really now the dominant platform in terms of market share, the mobile space.
Yeah, I would say I'm more of a mobile guy, at least when it comes to the HTML5 stuff, because it's very rare, at least in my dev experience, for there to be something that works on mobile in HTML5 but fails miserably on desktop. But the inverse is often true, so what you end up doing is you optimize for mobile.
This more just seems like Firefox needs to pivot a little bit, maybe, to accommodate this. I mean, so let's look at what they're doing here. They've got, first of all, they have a desktop browser that has tremendous market share and still is very feature-rich and still has some fantastic plugins.
And they have Rust coming out, which looks very interesting. We haven't talked about it yet. But
they have Firefox OS, which I actually got to play with at LinuxFest this weekend. Interesting. And their first batch of phones, I don't know how many this is, but their first batch is sold out. And they're pushing a lot of HTML5 innovations in terms of gaming, like we've talked about on the show before. Using WebGL,
right.
and I forget what the audio component of it is called, but we were playing. Okay, yeah, we were playing games in the Firefox browser, and that's
okay. So I should rephrase. You're right; they are relevant, but the problem is they're so true to openness that I feel like a lot of the other vendors actually take their innovations and incorporate into their product to the point where it doesn't really matter, right? You can be pretty sure that if you stay standard compliant, you're fine in Firefox.
Yeah, and the other problem they're going to have is this is the huge part with mobile is the huge advantage that WebKit has is all of the platform owners, with the exception of Microsoft, are shipping a WebKit browser by default. Google and Apple, and even BlackBerry.
That's WebKit?
I think so. I'm not sure.
The new one that has the Android emulator does run a WebKit browser.
I don't know what browser. I think BlackBerry's. Maybe somebody in the chat room might be able to tell us.
Is it V8 or is it We should find that out because I'm curious. I thought they had their own thing.
And then even like all of the browser downloads you can do in like the app markets are all WebKit.
They're all written in WebKit.
Yeah. So the only and then Chrome, which has a fantastic market share as well on the desktop, is WebKit.
For now. Right. Go back a few weeks.
Right. Well, but it's still going to be it's still going to be
close.
Yeah.
So, Nicholas, I mean, I get it. I used to be a hardcore Firefox user. I don't really know what happened. I mean, when I first switched to Chrome, it wasn't because I really liked Chrome. It was because Firefox was dirt slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of inertia, at least for me personally. I have things set up in Chrome. Chrome syncs across all my devices.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't really...
And I don't know where Chromium factors into this discussion. Probably, I think he's talking more than just code. He's talking more about really supporting an open web.
Right. Well, he's concerned that, if a proprietary browser has enough market share, they're going to change. I mean, this is the old IE debate from 1994, right? Or 1997, I apologize. He's right. I mean, now I think about it, I probably should transition. I guess it's really, you know what it is, Chris, for me? It's going to sound stupid. It's the syncing of all the Chrome apps.
No, that's what it is for me, too.
Yeah.
I really want to switch off Chrome just because, I actually really still like Firefox a lot, and on Linux, I just feel like it's...
I always felt like Firefox worked better on Ubuntu.
Yeah, I do, too. But the problem is I use... in my house alone, 7 or 8 computers, and I need bookmarks immediately available for when I'm doing shows, and I need all of the apps to sync, and I need when possible, I need those settings to sync. And some of these plugins, while Firefox has awesome plugins, and that's why I have Firefox installed on every computer, there's some Markdown stuff that I use for the show notes that are not equivalent in Firefox as well. And I still kind of feel like maybe Chrome is slightly faster.
I feel like Chrome is faster. Chrome has something called Postman that I use to test client APIs a lot. I bet we should. You know what? I'll take the Firefox challenge, Nick. I'll do it.
Really? That'd be something.
I will for the month. What's next? April, May.
I don't know.
The month of May, I will use Firefox as much as possible. I will set it to default on all my machines,
All right.
and I'll get back to you because I also I'm thinking about it. Chrome's DevTools are good, but I know Firefox has them now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I could do it with little to no pain.
You should try it. I would definitely miss a couple of my Markdown utilities. And I don't agree that the sync works as well on Firefox or is better. I believe, first of all, the Chrome sync is diametrically easier to set up. Yeah. It is, you go in, you log in with your Google ID, and you are freaking done. When on Firefox, I can't even get it to sync anymore because I need some sort of device, and I have to pair something. It is ridiculous. It is so frustrating. I'm so angry at the Firefox sync. That's another reason. And when I do use Firefox now, because I can't get the damn sync system to work, I always have to end up using Xmarks, which is slow and it pops up all the time. The sync system is not nearly as good on Firefox. And frankly, I do kind of feel like Firefox trails behind in some of that kind of stuff. And the problem is Google has this massive incentive and this massive amount of funding. Not only do they want to control the web browser on the desktop, but they got incentive to make it work great on mobile too. I mean, Chrome just has like all of these advantages. They have the deck kind of stacked, but I too would love to be able to switch to Firefox.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it May, and I'm also gonna look into what they've done recently because I have to be honest. I've been able to successfully ignore Mozilla for about 2 years. Like I obviously test code in their browser, but I really don't pay that much attention, and I haven't had to.
You're gonna try it though.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to see.
Firefox challenge.
I'm going to do it. I mean, well, the one thing, Chrome doesn't work that well on Mac anyway, right? And I do most of my work on a Mac. Chrome likes to spin up processes that don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Chrome and Xcode are actually a good combination to crash your machine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I should probably make the disclaimer that, I think the only reason I don't have a machine that has less than 8 gigs of RAM in it anymore. So RAM is not an issue for me, but I would imagine if I was in a memory constraint, like a netbook that had 2 gigs or something like that, Chrome might not also be a very good option. Right.
So this is unrelated, but I'm also, my Dell XPS was killed recently, or a couple months ago. I've been looking at getting a Linux machine. So maybe it is, I was looking at Jala, which somebody wrote in. You remember this Jala OS or Jolly OS?
Oh, yeah, sure.
There is a small Chinese company actually manufacturing and selling Jolly laptops.
Right. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. If I find it, I'll put it in the show notes because that's kind of an open, free and freedom thing.
What? But you're going to buy one?
No, I'm not going to buy one.
Oh, I was going to say, dang, man.
Yeah, no, I'm going to buy, if I do get a Linux box and, don't just VM something, I'll probably wait for Sputnik V2. So it'll be like a year.
There you go.
Unless System 76 has something.
Like an Ultra. You want an Ultrabook is what you want.
I want something thin. I want a MacBook Air with Linux.
Mm-hmm. Why not then just get Linus does it? I know it's probably a project. I don't know, though. But
it's a pain in the ass.
I imagine if he's done it, there's probably a good chance there's kernel support. I don't know.
Kernel sure as hell works.
It's not like he does drivers or anything anymore, but I just, yeah.
No, we should move along.
All right.
We're eating time here.
Dirk's email?
Yeah.
All right. You want me to read this?
Go ahead.
Mr. Dirk writes in. He says, "Hello, Mike and Chris. I have a question for you all about lifestyle and career choice. 2 years ago, I started working for a large company as a developer in the IT department. I took the job wholeheartedly and was willing to juggle flaming platoons? What is he talking about? If they asked because I was so... he's just saying he was willing to do anything if they asked because he was so happy to have the job. At the time, I had recently graduated with a CS degree, and after 8 months without a job, I had to take a position doing data entry. So here I am working for this big corporation for a couple of years as a developer. I love my work, and the people on my team are smart, high-caliber developers and architects that I'm learning a lot from all the time. However, there is still that corporate level, and it's a big-ass corporate level. I hate this part. Every month, some jerk has a new plan to make things run better. Oh, man. Like, hey, let's add TPS reports. I remember this. First, it was let's have the daily status meeting, then the change control meetings.
Yes.
Then he goes on, my wife and I recently had our first son. Congratulations, Derek. I make an okay salary, but I'm not paid what I'm worth. But I do get benefits. I'm very nervous about giving up security of my paycheck and the bennies with my wife and son to think about. I've been thinking about contracting as a longtime listener to Jupiter Broadcasting. Where better to get some data? I would be grateful for any ideas, opinions, etc. on how you got into contracting, what it takes, and what to expect, and how you balance your personal life with your work life. And he put from Angela, might, from her perspective, would be appreciated as well. Well, I think I might know her perspective on this one. Well, that's a very interesting question, and it's sort of an age-old the challenge that I think a lot of people go through when they're sitting in that corporate job when it's just not a fit for them. I know I have a lot of friends who for a long time I was like, how can you stand working at that job every day? Do you just like medicate yourself? How are you doing this? I literally wondered this, like, because to me it starts to become an overwhelming anxiety. It almost becomes all consuming if after a while when I get bored at a company. So that's how I knew I had to go into contracting, because I literally can't work the other way. I don't know if there's some sort of medical condition you could prescribe me with, and I probably would be some sort of antidepressant I could take to just mellow me out about it. But for me, it starts to eat me up from the inside. And also, it's one of those things where I felt like there was a lot of risk involved, but it was sort of a now or never kind of thing. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, when I got into contracting, my situation was a little different, right? I didn't leave a job that I was going to have. I was laid off, so it was kind of a natural thing to do. And I also didn't have a kid or anything at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I would say,
what do you mean at that point?
Well, I don't have a kid now.
Okay.
I meant like I lived alone. There was no one who it might affect.
Right.
Per se. It's a tough one. One thing I will say, and this actually happened to me this week, and we went to an old friend's birthday party and met some of her cousins. And you tell someone you own a business, they assume you're rich, off the bat.
Only people who've never owned a business.
Right. It's one thing you're gonna find, and this was challenging for me. There will be months where you bring in like 20 grand, and then you won't work for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Or you will have done 20 grand's worth of work and only been paid 5. These things. It's easy to think, you do some work, you're going to get paid, but in reality, the hard part of contracting is the business end, collecting the money.
Gosh, isn't that true?
Yeah, I mean,
and their thing is companies have a lead time for how long they pay. So even when you invoice them on time, if you do that, and if you depending on how heads down you are on the work you're doing, even just getting the invoicing out can be a challenge, because it's, man, after a long day's work, the last thing I want to do is, write up what I did. And so even if you overcome that challenge, then getting them to pay, even if they just pay on time, it depends on what your terms are, but could be, a very long time before they write you a check.
Yeah, and it. So if you're a decent developer, the technical side isn't going to be hard. It's all the, your project manager that likes to do the change meetings and the stand-ups. He's probably doing them to adapt to technical debt or something like that. And what's nice about working for someone as an employee, if a project's late, they still have to pay your salary.
Yeah.
They can fire you, but that's about it, right? There's no cap on what you're gonna. what you're gonna make.
And even there, you can take some. There's never a win-win. I mean, you can document, if something caused something to be wrong, to try to mitigate the backlash. But although this is a tough challenge, because as somebody who is, there's no net. There really is no net, and so I do kind of see how people kind of view a day job, a paycheck, as a net. Although I think those things can be a lot less sturdy than we all think. I worked at a place for 6 years. I was going on my 7th year, and their big thing in every review, because of course you had to have your yearly review, was, we don't quite pay as much as everybody else. And this is back in the .com bust, so that's how old I am. I was working at IT, and they said, we don't quite pay as well as everybody, but in our 25-year corporate history, we have never laid anyone off. We have never had to lay. Yeah, they'll fire, but they've never had to lay anybody off or anything like that. So you have a good, stable job. And this is when the .com bubble burst and everybody's losing their jobs. So that was a good selling point in the IT industry. And you know what? That turned out to be crap, because then a year later they laid off the entire IT department.
So I'm not actually talking about, at least in New Jersey, I don't know how Washington is. You can be fired for any reason or no reason, and you have no recourse. unless it's some kind of gender or race discrimination. What I'm talking about is, if the project takes an extra week, you get paid for that extra week. Often in contracting, they want a fixed bid, and that's tough, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And this, I would say, the other thing you really got to, the medical benefits thing, especially when you have a newborn,
Yeah.
is you really got to give that some consideration. And I would say, look into your options there. I don't know. It's probably going to vary state to state, but also one of the things that we did, and it's a really good thing we did because we then ended up needing it, was I set aside months of salary.
Yeah.
Ahead of time. We just took, a while to do it, and we're building towards it. And the other thing that's nice about that is it kind of gives you a benchmark towards your goal, and you kind of align the other things in your life to sort of be prepared for that as you sort of build that fund up. And it gives you time to kind of get a lot of the little details figured out. And you'll find that that's not such a bad thing, because even if you decide not to make the leap, you have this emergency fund. And it's so not only is it like a good practice to make, but do you have the discipline? So you check that box. Gives you time to sort of organize your life and prepare, so you can check that box. And then it gives you that checkbox, so when you have dips where the money isn't coming in, you have something to pull from. And that, it's just a great idea all around. And I'd say if you can start with that, then if you can pull that off, you can probably do it.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, that's good. I again did not.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
It really depends on your
feel
situation. Like if you
an-
have work out of the gate, like if you have side work and you have
Yeah.
people that are already kind of trying to take your time, and you already feel like you're getting stretched in too many directions, which is really where I was at. Then it's a little less risky.
The only other thing I think I might add is, keep in mind that if you work for someone as an employee, generally the worst thing that your employer can do to you is fire you.
Right.
As a contractor, there are a lot of people who like to get litigious.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not in the industry. When you're starting out, you may have to take those kind of people on as clients.
That would be, Spider in the chat rooms. If one thing, it depends on what your situation is with your employer. If there is a part-time solution where they would allow you to work part-time and you could sort of spin up the contracting business on the side, that would be awesome. Now, that's totally going to be dependent on how cool they are, but
yeah, and definitely, as the chat room mentioned, you need a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to be punished in taxes for that.
Yes.
But you need it, so if anybody's ever unhappy, you can always, you always have the eject button, right?
Mm-hmm.
Corporate bankruptcy, that ends everything.
Here, have it. I'm out of here.
Where if you don't have that, your house, everything is fair game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I hate to focus on the negative, and I've never gotten to a situation like that where that was ever a real consideration, but.
No, and there are a lot of benefits too. There's certain there's certain benefits to having an LLC just for tax purposes and all kinds of nice reasons to have an LLC, really, or whatever it is, a C corp or whatever you do. But yeah, gosh, Derek, let us know what happens. Email us back, coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or hit that
And I would
contact
definitely
link.
discuss it with your wife.
Yeah,
because there are going to be months where the rent might be late.
Yeah, she's got to be ready. She's got to be ready for that.
Yeah, it's especially starting out. If you don't already have built-in side projects.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, we got this is an interesting one from Kurt. That was your cue.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay. Spelled his name wrong.
Oh.
He wants some advice on moving.
Wow! I just read that and I read it again, and I read a completely different thing.
Okay, so he would like some advice on moving from a Visual Studio tool, toolchain coding in VBasic, to a Vim C++ toolchain. What exactly do you do?
Oh, he didn't say?
Yeah, he didn't really say.
Knut?
I don't know. I'm going to call him Nut.
Yeah, Nut. There you go.
Okay, so
moving from Visual Studio VBasic to Vim C++.
VBasic to Vim and C++.
Yeah. Boy, that's quite the transition. That's
I'm
about as... Jeez.
That's pretty radical. So first off, most of the C++ devs I know don't use Vim. They tend to use big IDEs because there's so much nonsense you have to keep track of. Now, you could use Vim. I would more question your premise here on what kind of work are you trying to do here? Yeah, write in next week and kind of give a little more detail. My understanding is you use Visual Studio at work or something, and you code in VBasic. But jumping right to C++, okay. Grey Wolf is a C++ programmer and he uses Vim. Fair enough.
There you go.
Grey Wolf's also very hardcore.
Yeah, that's true. And he's a wolf after all.
Yes, the point still stands. So why the jump from VBasic to C++? What are you trying to do? Oh, okay, you're in the chat room. So he wants to learn the tool and he wants to start with programming. But if it's just to learn, there is a code school Vim lesson, I believe.
Oh, no kidding?
And I think we have an affiliate code.
You know, if you just clicked that code school link at the bottom of our website, we would get a little kickback from that.
Yeah, and if that's all you're trying to just learn, they'll take you through setting up Vim and how you can do plugins, and it's a pretty good way to start.
Gotta go look at this.
Yeah. On that note, there are tons of plugins for pretty much any development in Vim. So I don't do C++ in Vim. In fact, I basically use Sublime for most things right now.
Yeah, I like Sublime a lot.
But yeah, I would Google around for other people who do that, or even maybe message Grey Wolf and see what kind of plugins he's using.
And maybe Grey Wolf will share the deeds, huh?
Maybe he's got it.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for coming in the chat room too. That's really nice.
Thank you.
That makes it a little handy, a little more real time. All right. Well, why don't I get to Contour's feedback? Because remember last week,
hop on your tinfoil hat. Let's go.
Remember last week I was like, well, maybe Apple doesn't really care if people are gaming the iOS. But we covered that story about people dropping $300K to get to the top of the iOS store charts, and then we speculated that it would only be able to be really large companies that could afford that. And I said, maybe no one's really all that interested in fixing it because Apple makes money, the company gets great PR, they go to the top of the charts, they make more money than it probably costs them to get there. But Cointor, or Cointar, on the subreddit, don't forget we have coderradio.reddit.com. He submitted this response. He says, the money is pocket change to Apple. It won't cause more sales from being at the top because users are more likely to want an app that has legitimately got to the top than an app that they bought its way to the top. It will cause more developers to switch away from other platforms if they feel like their success is hindered by some people gaming the system. Big companies succeeding also discourages everyone else. I'm only being appealing to the top 5% means that 95% should go to Android, which I'm sure Apple does not want. I don't know if I agree that people don't buy something because it's at the top of the charts. I think discovery is a huge issue in the iOS store, and I think rising to the top of the charts dramatically improves your visibility and then improves sales. And I think Mr. Dominic would probably agree with that statement.
I'd agree with you. Yes, I agree with half of what you're going to say. Yes.
No, the rest I don't know if the problem is necessarily going to be any better. I mean, he says they'd switch to Android. I mean, that's kind of assuming that this problem can't and won't exist in the Android Play Store at some point, or already does. Good. I mean, it probably does.
Probably does.
There's more eyeballs over there, and discovery can be even more of a problem because there's a lot more noise. So there's actually more reason to game over there, in my opinion.
And there's, Google's a little more liberal than Apple. They don't pay as much attention.
I do agree, though. I mean, overall, I don't think really...
It's not good for Apple.
Apple's so freaking rich that it's not in their interest for the small-time change. It's much more in their interest to lock it down to stay in the store in the long term. So I agree with his overall assumption. I just don't agree with some of the details. All right.
And it's kind of a moot point anyway. So let's talk about conferences.
Wait, before we go there, hold on. Before we go there, we got to do a little
business
and talk about the fine folks over at GoDaddy.com. Because they are our sponsor this week for the Coder Radio program, GoDaddy.com. Now, I don't know if Danica herself yet listens to the Coder Radio program, but I am working on it. And let me tell you, when you're over there, if you want to celebrate them supporting the Coder Radio program, use the promo code CODER295 when you check out. CODER295 gets you a .com for $2, a .com for $2.95, or you can transfer your domain over to the GoDaddy.com using the Coder295er. Coder295er, think about that. You get it transferred, then you get it in this great system. It's easy to delegate. Lots of people use GoDaddy, and you get the renewal for a year. That's fantastic. GoDaddy.com is the world's #1 domain name registrar, so go get your .com for $2.95. And thank you to GoDaddy.com for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Now let's talk about conferences.
All right, so you were recently at LinuxFest Northwest, and
one and only.
I'm sure anybody who's checked out Reddit will know that WWDC's tickets went on sale.
Right.
And they had some trouble selling those. I mean, it took 120 seconds for them to sell out.
2 minutes, right? Is
2
that
minutes.
Yeah.
2
Wow.
minutes.
That is stupid, really, actually.
Now, for those who don't know, I had decided not to go the day before they went on sale and put it on Twitter because one ticket is $1,600, and
Wow.
that is only a ticket to the conference. So you have room, board, travel, which for me, travel's relatively expensive. And then you have to get a hotel.
Man, times have changed from when Apple was just a Mac company.
Yeah, they definitely have.
So one thing, though, that is kind of good is that it sounds like they're going to do like some sort of video breakout sessions later in the year for people who couldn't get a ticket.
Well, no, so that's what they did last year. This year, they're actually releasing them during the conference. So the API sessions.
Well,
so that's
how
actually,
innovative of them.
yeah, just like Google has been doing for 4 years.
You mean, are they going to use some kind of live streaming technology?
No, they're not. No, of course not. They're going to doctor them and cut them or whatever they do. But, and they're going to be released through iTunes, of course. It got me thinking about, what is the point of these conferences, right? Because especially in the Apple space, there's this big, indie developers, independent software vendors, they're awesome. But a lot of the people going to this conference are being sent by their employer, right? There's a lot of big companies. It's reminds me of Java conferences at this point, where it's kind of a marketing thing. And I kind of went looking around to kind of find, what's going on the conference circuit these days. And they've definitely changed.
Oh yeah.
They're first of all, they're far more expensive than they used to be. And then I'm saying used to be, I'm talking early 2000s even. And they are very marketing focused now, which is interesting. So, and I don't really have a bone to pick here. I'm just curious, Chris, is that in the sysadmin world, is that something you're seeing as well?
Gosh, it depends. There's a lot of really corporate conferences for the IT world that really make my skin crawl in Seattle. That a few of them every year. And there's some people on other podcast networks who are involved in some of them, and they always go on and on about how great it is, but they really are big money marketing, bought out by the big guys. Now, not all of them are like that. Like, our local LinuxFest Northwest is free. You go in there for free. And it's just kind of more of a low-key discovery kind of thing. But I want, doubling back on your point, I too, as I was driving home in one of the worst states of my life, never been that sick in a car before. I too was thinking, the value was meeting people who I've seen on the internet or I've talked to in the chat room. That was the best part. The rest of it, there was nothing really in any of the sessions or any of the booths that I didn't already pretty much know everything about because of the web and because of other podcasts and things like that. So I didn't feel like the value for me was in really anything I was learning at the conference. It was more about in real life community connections. And that can't really be all that applicable to a ton of people, I would think.
Right. And, a great parallel to this whole phenomenon, I think, is South by Southwest. I don't know if you've ever been, Chris.
No, see, that's, again, not really my thing.
It used to be
that may be a
tech conference.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of, everybody's a hipster. Sorry, hipsters, but you guys got to stop. It's basically, it used to be lead developers. Developers would go, independent developers. Now it's hipster CEO of hipster startup pimping her idea or his idea, which is fine, right? Like I pimp my stuff too. It's the way it goes. But I'm finding that every meetup I go to is now, hey, want to be my CTO? Or it's, social company A is hosting their thing, this hackathon in their office. Oh, but we own the product and you have to use our API. Like, where are the old school, just general meetups? Right?
Yeah, those do happen, but not at that scale anymore. And what's interesting is, have you seen the way Canonical's done is they've canned their in real life. So, during the development cycle of every release of Ubuntu, they would fly everybody to one central location and they would have a meetup. And now they're doing them all via Hangouts and live streams, and they have a coordinated calendaring and chat system around it.
I just don't feel like that's the same.
Right, I agree.
Look, here's my thing. If you and I were to go to a conference, at any point we could meet up and kind of walk off the beaten path and go get a coffee or at a cafe somewhere and kind of do our own thing.
Grab dinner or whatever.
Right. With these new Hangout conferences.
Right. You're done and you go back into your kitchen and make yourself a sandwich.
Right, but there's really no side things going on. And to be honest, every conference I've been to, it's been all about the side deals, right? It's been all about the, you know, you ask a question, somebody overhears you. He's like, "Oh, I have an open source library that solves that. Here, buy me a sandwich and I'll show it to you."
And I mean, I hate to say this because I wish it wasn't true, but there really is a difference when you meet somebody in person.
There is, and one thing. So, well, I'm obviously on the East Coast. If listeners are new, I'm in New Jersey. It's very hard to actually meet other developers in New Jersey. Rutgers University sponsors a conference, but it's very, would you like to hire our students kind of thing. And every time I go there, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
There is one meetup in New York, iOS developer meetup, which is nice, but it's geared more and more. I feel like it's geared towards the whole, the Silicon Alley startup valley thing, the 9 to 5 guys. One big thing is they changed their schedule. They used to have them kind of randomly. They used to do lunches. Now they're always 7 o'clock or later because they need to get the 9 to 5ers in. Which is nothing wrong with that. But I'm looking, if I'm gonna bother taking the hour-and-a-half train ride, I kind of want to hang out with other people who are actually selling software and have that.
Right.
Right, because really, I'm not going to, travel 2 hours to talk about the new Cocoa API.
But those people aren't putting on the conferences. They, the only way, it seems like you almost like, you need like a way to organize before the conference, so that way when you all meet up or something, you can all organize once you all get there. Like, you can organize around the conference event itself, but that's not really the main point of the conference. Like, why do you need the conference then?
Right, and why would you pay $1,000 or $1,600 for the ticket?
Well, yeah, in that case especially.
You'd be smarter to say, let's all go to a cafe on this day, and whatever, 6 or 10 guys. Just do it like that. Everybody pays for the lunch, and that's it. I know the Linux users have their lug thing.
Yep.
I guess that's kind of what I'm talking about.
And my grandpa is a member of a computer users club. Like, they used to do that back in the 80s. Right. And the group that formed, his original group that formed in the 80s, has just remained together. And they meet once a month and talk about software and hardware.
Yeah.
But nobody really does that anymore. Nobody,
nobody does it.
And unfortunately, the conferences have just gotten too big and too corporate and too special.
I mean, I got emails all week from other iOS developers, Mac developers I sometimes have worked with in this area. Hey, we should get together. Are you going to DubDub? Right? Like, that's the default meetup.
Well, the thing about that is, everybody's busy. People don't have time to travel all the time, so this is one of the things they do every year. So this is like the one time where everybody can kind of meet up.
Right, and I understand. I mean, the reason I don't want to go to the ones in New York is also, if they start at 7 at night, I'm there for a few hours, I literally miss the train back to the shore.
It's funny because I think the size that LinuxFest is, it's exactly the right size conference. There's just a little bit too many people, but you meet, you see familiar faces every year. People that have been going for 5+ years, plus new faces, and it's just big enough that people will drive from Idaho and North Dakota, and they'll come from a very far away. I think some people even I think people even fly in, in small circumstances, but it's not so big that it's completely impractical and impossible to manage. But the problem is, it's because the subject matters they're focusing on are a little more niche. They're a little more open source geeky, and so there isn't that big corporate interest to blow it up and make a big show out of it. And
yeah, I mean, Linux.
But there's no. But if you want to be in a market that makes money, you might have to go the other way.
I know. It just seems like a shame. It seems, and to their credit, Apple is now in the fall going to do smaller events around the country, and I even think overseas as well, because it's getting to the point where you just can't go to DubDub, and it's like Google I/O. You just can't go, right? Unless unless you stay up all night or you sit there hammering the refresh key. Oh, and it's a lot easier if you live in California.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and that's to their credit, right? Apple will do one in Dallas and New York probably, and then they'll do one in Tokyo like they did the other 2 years ago. And I'm just wondering, is that what we should be doing? Should the vendors, kind of pack up the truck and go on the road? Or do we need to get back to that 80s style? Because I understand there's also the other side of it. Well, very few indie developers aren't also consultants. And you really want to hang out with all your competitors.
That's an interesting thing, isn't it? That
Yeah.
is an interesting thing. And, yeah.
Like I get that, which
Yeah.
and to be funny, I go to lunch with one of my competitors down here all the time, but there is sometimes a facet of there's awkward things that come up during lunch, right? We talk about someone who called. Turns out they called both of us,
Oh, really?
right? Yeah, and then we can get into, oh, well, you met their budget, and I'm like, yeah, well, you're going to lose money on that project.
Yeah, I have a buddy who I'm good friends with and
Yeah.
things like that. But there have been a situation where that's happened too. And yeah, and then I wonder too. I try not to let it get to me, but you always wonder, like, are they copying that from me? That kind of
Well, in
thing.
this case, I know it's not, but it just gets a little weird. I guess I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a sign of the times, and those conferences are never coming back. The community ones.
That's
Maybe
what I
that's the
think.
truth.
That's what I
Yeah.
think. I think the industry's just moved beyond that stage.
Because I know certainly, it's Silicon Alley, as they call it, is kicking up pretty well here.
I guess I should back up. That technology, that market is moved beyond that stage. But if you look at the LinuxFest Northwest type stuff, there's stuff, or there's just certain categories of things that are still in the earlier stages or in a different market that they are more like that traditional.
Right, but they're still in the same hotbeds, right? California, Redmond. I mean, it's.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I'm talking even smaller than LinuxFest Northwest.
Yeah. As far as where people are concentrated, and yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I know I'm going to get the emails. There are a number of them that are just a train trip away from me. But they're always funded by these venture capitalists or these startups where they're really just looking for people they can poach or hire. Which I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I'm being a curmudgeon.
What? Not you. Curmudgeon.
I just, it would be nice for there to be the Lug or the Mac user group style conferences still.
Mm-hmm.
Or, what would be nice? Macworld, right? Which still is around, but I don't know, Chris. I'm just a little sad.
Hello, everybody.
I'll cheer you up.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, because you kind of feel like you're out on Indie Island over there, and it is one of these things where I think it also sounds sometimes a little more glamorous than it actually is. If you just need information and collaboration, honestly, the web, Google Hangouts, a lot of it does work.
Yeah, I'm going to get, I would say 90% of the benefit I would have gotten from DubDub just by watching the videos, which is fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I watched the Google I/O ones too. It's fine. It just worries me that all these events are put on by platform vendors now.
There's probably listeners in your area. You guys should just figure out a time in one of these weekends, do like a coffee or something.
So there's more listeners in your area from what I've been hearing.
Oh yeah, there's a few around here, yeah.
Yeah, there's very, very, but I'm wondering if it's just because of the way New Jersey's laws are, that it's not very friendly to business.
I probably met like 100 of them on Saturday. It was pretty crazy.
Well, that would be great, but yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, back to the point of DubDub though. I mean, it's absurd that they're selling out in 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's just not even like, it's not even practical for anybody other than people with the inside scoop or somebody with some crazy text messaging setup. There you go,
and
yeah.
it's
why? So I guess they have to refactor that is what they have to do.
Well, they are. They're doing the smaller ones around, and those will sell out in 2 minutes too, because most of the same people are going to go.
Maybe they have maybe a bigger venue or something.
I have no idea. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm probably going to go to the one in New York during the fall or the winter.
Oh, there you go.
Because why not? as long as it's not, $2,000 or whatever.
Right.
As long as it shouldn't cost me more than a new MacBook Air. That's
Unless they give you a MacBook Air when you get there.
Yeah, unless I walk in and they're like, they never pull an Oprah, by the way.
Or a Google I/O.
Yeah, Google's like,
Google's
everybody
giving it
gets
away.
a new tablet.
Here, you want a queue? Nobody else does.
Don't worry, it'll be an Ouya next year.
Ouch. Ouch.
That's who should be putting on a conference, by the way, Ouya.
Yeah.
And just bribe the hell out of everybody who goes there.
I feel like we need a conference reboot across the board.
Well, I wonder if your idea of Google Hangout being the new conference community is going to be the way.
I think especially with Google Hangout on air, and then they go right over to YouTube. It's nice.
That might be what happens.
Yeah. It's not the same. Not the same as press in the flesh, as they say. I still think there's a call for that, but I think maybe it's just going to be less and less frequent.
Okay, I'll just fly out to Washington and we'll have a Jupiter Broadcasting Conference.
Dude, you should do it while it's nice out. We get some barbecue going, go down and see the Space Needle.
Watch you vomit in the corner.
Hopefully I'm all over all that. It was, I think I did enough of that for the next 17 years. So
I would also like to mention, speaking of talking to people, Chris, this is out of band, but we can't forget again. Next week is a call-in show.
Oh my gosh, yes. Wow, so next week we want you to call. Now we'll give out the phone number next week. I don't know if my Skype account's all messed up, so I don't even know if the phone number's working right now. But next week when you call, it's next week, show up live. Now come over to the stream, jblive.tv. We're live 9 a.m., noon Eastern. That's 5 p.m. over in London. So even you guys over there can call in. Look what we're doing for you here. You see what we're doing for you guys? So you better show up because we like your accents. And then we'll give you out the phone number. You'll call in and we'll take your calls. It's going to be a call-in show, which that means if nobody shows up,
Show will be very short.
Yeah, and we'll have a 15-minute show. You'll get a couple of emails. We'll talk about GoDaddy, and then we'll hang up on you.
So
call in.
I might pimp an app or CodeJournal.
There you go. There you go. Maybe I'll get sick again. I could talk about that.
You'll vomit on air. It'll be
All right, so join us. That'll be next Tuesday. That's going to be April the 7th, isn't it? That'll be April the 7th. Is
that right?
I think so, because, today's the 29th, right? Do I have that? Am I looking at the right thing?
I guess. I didn't realize
we're on Mondays. It's going to be April the 6th. We're on Mondays.
May the 6th.
Yes, May the 6th. Jeez.
Okay.
May the 6th, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, 5 p.m. over in London. That's 2 a.m. in Sydney, Australia, so I don't know if we're going to hear many people from them. But call in and we'll answer your questions, or you can give us feedback right then and there.
All right, so we have one more small topic, Chris.
Okay.
You mentioned on the pre-show that Marco Arment of Instapaper has now sold Instapaper.
Oh, yeah. He sold it to BetaWorks, the guys who now own Dig.
They own Dig, and what else they own? They own something else big, too, right?
Oh, look.
Yeah. Chris, what were you asking me on the pre-show about this?
I just kind of asked for your general thoughts because, Instapaper is kind of one of the earlier successes in the iOS store, and my first initial impression was I kind of got the feeling of abandonment a little bit. I kind of felt like, oh, look, here goes Marco. He's just once again gotten bored with something, and he's just kind of being flippant and moving on. After, I bought the app, and I bought it partially because I knew the story behind the app.
I think a lot of people bought it because they, for lack of a better term, liked Marco, right?
Right.
To be fair, I have a much more positive spin on this. So the problem of the app economy is you're going to make your sales more or less the beginning of an app's life cycle. And it changes a bit with in-app purchases, but in reality, an app like Instapaper that's 5 years old is, without consistent updates, which Instapaper hasn't had an update in some time, it's very hard to keep those numbers or to keep the trend. Obviously, Instapaper continued to do well, but
I'd heard him say too that he would get boosts when a new device came out.
Yeah, but everybody gets boosts when a new device comes out. You also get a boost when you push an update, so it kind of behooves you to do smaller, more incremental updates as much as possible. And let's not forget that Marco also has to run the magazine as well, right? And Instapaper has thousands of users. Tens of thousands, probably.
It could very potentially have an actual measurable percentage of the iOS install base.
Right.
And it's probably doing okay on Android now, too.
So the Android deal, I don't know how much you followed it. He doesn't actually directly do much with the Android one, though. That's a partnership contracting thing.
Right.
So that's a Mobilux. I think this is Android.
Oh, interesting. Stuart in the chat room also mentions that BetaWorks owns of other companies we might be familiar with, Bitly.
Oh wow, I use Bitly all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And they use they also I've heard of SocialFlow, but never used them. And I'm also familiar with Chartbeat.
So I've heard of Blog Lovin', but I don't know what it is.
With Blog Lovin', reading blogs is once again fun, easy, and relevant. That's their tagline.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Instapaper. Ooh, that was mean. It's the same company now. It doesn't matter. So with that many users, one guy is not going to be able to sustain that.
Right.
And I just feel like this was the right move for him. I mean, I know a lot of people were upset. I've read the trolley Reddit stuff, which I mean, how can you hate someone for success?
No, you're right. I don't begrudge him for that.
Yeah. I mean, this was the only exit because it just is. I mean, also, he has a ton of competition that's free now. There's nothing worse than free competition.
Pocket has come up. Evernote has integrated read it later type functionality, which is actually kind of neat because it also speaks to you.
I haven't tried it, but I did just upgrade to Evernote Premium for an unrelated reason.
The problem with the Evernote version is the browser plugin doesn't let you very easily pick what spot in Evernote you want to stash, but otherwise it's pretty neat. I mean, so yeah, there's definitely, his territory was being sieged upon.
Right, and it's just, I mean, Instapaper's been out for about 5 years now.
Yeah.
I don't think 5 years of only supporting one app is a long time. And he goes into this on another podcast. He refused to hire anyone, so therefore he had to do it all himself. And you just can't, right? You just even the support.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
I mean, I don't know if I completely can agree with that. It seems like potentially that was more of just he just needed to find the right person to manage that stuff for him.
Okay, so full disclosure, I'm currently drowning in support emails.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, I understand the drowning in emails thing.
Yeah, it's just a lot of them are feature requests, which are something we should talk about next week. Yeah. I could see how that side of things can become taxing.
It is, and it's you feel bad. You feel it weighs on you. It's a guilt thing. I think about it a lot.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'm very happy for him. I think that's great. Anytime an indie dev gets a good exit from an app like that, that's fantastic.
I think this is just the beginning of a trend. I think you're going to see this as the app exit. And these guys who are in early, who got a lot of success, they're as you call it, parabolic curve, it strikes, and they're dropping off. Not only that, but let's be honest, Google's selling a hell of a lot more devices now too. So there is sort of this double whammy effect for these people who've been in for a long time.
Yeah, it should be. So this is I'd like to see the Android version of this type of thing happen, to see how that deal goes.
Yeah, they're doing. Did you mention? Have you grokked the details? It's a special arrangement. It's maybe something that we might see more of.
I only wrote what I only know what he wrote about. Basically, yeah, it's not a straight sale, right? It's not they gave him X dollars and he walks away. It sounds like there's some kind of profit sharing going on.
Yeah, because they're going to keep him around for advisory roles or something like that. Good for him.
Yeah, and he didn't sell his whole company. He sold the app, which is brilliant.
And it sounds like he was fairly picky about who he picked to run it. And I guess BetaWorks seemed to turn dig around.
I wish me and him were friendly. And I would like to sit down and be like, because I feel like if you were maximizing money, you could go to Pocket on this.
Right.
And be like, how much do you want me to get out of this market?
Right. Pocket would love to own Instapaper.
Just to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Or just roll it into Pocket.
Right.
Like migrate all the users over. And I wonder if he didn't take less money, which is great. Bad for him, but great for users because, I mean, I'm very critical of a lot of things he does and says because he can be, like me, something of a jerk. He does, in the context of a user, when you have to talk to him, he is very good. And he does care about his users. And this move, I think, was intentionally done to benefit the users of Instapaper. So that's fantastic.
This is maybe something that we could branch off to. This is what I'm about to say as its own show topic that I've been actually wanting to talk to you about is like the biggest flaw my business has is me, in the sense that if I get sick, there's no shows, there's no production, there's nothing.
Right.
And what happens if I need like oral surgery and I need to step away for 2 weeks or a week? Or, what if something like that happened to you?
It has happened. It's been a problem.
So I don't know. I mean, that's probably a topic for the future, but I wonder if, too, a little bit of that played here with Marco. He one-man show, so much was dependent on him. He just kind of burned out after a while. He just kind of, got to a limit. And
I'm sure.
And if things to prevent that were put into place before he got to that, maybe he could have kept with it for longer.
And don't be surprised if in 6 months he has a new app.
Right.
That's I'm sure it's going to be totally different, right?
That is yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a pivot, as they like in the startup world. He's pivoting. Yeah. But it was surprising, Chris. There was a lot of vitriol, which I guess is to be expected. But I don't understand how this could be a negative thing in any way.
Well, it is a little bit of the downside when you sell the story. Just like I believe now Apple is reaping that. They sowed the, our company is led by a rock star, a messiah of technology. And when he goes away, even if the actual fundamentals of the company don't change and all the people who are creating and building the products don't change, that story goes away. And that story is what a lot of people were buying. And in the same case with Marco, a lot of people were, he came from Tumblr, he was an independent developer, made his way on this brand new mobile platform, came up with a great idea, did it all himself. Wow, look how the new mobile economy can make one guy a self-made.
Self-made man.
Yeah, exactly. And people bought that story. And they, there's other apps. And so I think that's part of it. And now that's just going to be a percentage of the user base, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see it that way, but I'm probably
well, you're not part of that base. You used it based on the app's pragmatic functionality.
Well, I'm just thinking if it were mine, like.
Oh, that too, right?
Yeah. So congratulations to him, and anybody else who's doing a read it later service. Call BetaWorks. See if they want to buy it.
Do you think we have time for a pick this week, or
let's do a pick?
All right, I got a quick one. I absolutely love this backpack that I have for my laptop. Now I know it's kind of a weird pick to make, especially.
Are you 12?
What's that?
Are you 12?
No. See, now I do agree that a backpack is a little odd, but if you've got a few things like the backpack, the power brick, maybe a laptop, or I mean a tablet, like a few things. I don't know, the briefcase. I never feel like myself carrying a briefcase, right? And so I got this Swiss Gear backpack. Now I needed a big boy for my Bonobo. I'm not gonna lie, all my other backpacks, and I have a few other laptop backpacks, could not fit this machine. This is the greatest laptop. First of all, first thing I like about it, it stands on its own. You set it down on the ground, it just freaking stands on its own. Second thing, the handle is actually metal wire. It's woven wire. That's what the freaking handle is. So it's like the strongest handle in the world. Then it has like this area up front that's padded. I put my screwdrivers in there, but you could put like an iPod in there, or anything you didn't want to get damaged. The straps are amazing. I know if you know what, this probably doesn't apply to many of you, but if you have needed a good backpack, now the one I'm linking is the 17-inch model, so it's a little expensive, but if you just click the link in the show notes, we'll get credit for the purchase, and you can click through, and they have ones for smaller laptops that don't cost as much. Amazing backpack. I can't even believe I'm talking about this, but that's how much I love this thing. And it's the Swiss Gear 17 gray notebook, and we'll have it linked in the show notes. And if you got a few things you're carrying around, the straps are very comfortable, like they don't dig into your shoulder, and I tell you, I'm carrying a lot of crap in this backpack. I really recommend this. Steel cable. Thank you, Jez, in the chat room. So there you go. I'll have a link to that. And if you're looking for a laptop backpack that also doubles as, it's got the built-in sleeve too, so you slide it in there. It's got this protective thing just for the laptop. It even fits the Bonobo, which is crazy. And I've actually carried 2 laptops at once in this backpack and a Nexus 7. So it's really great. There you go. Now, that's only so useful for so many people. But let me tell you, it sure came in handy this weekend at LinuxFest Northwest. All right, Mr. Dominic, I think that brings us to the end, doesn't it?
I think it is.
Okay, folks, don't forget, we would like your calls next week. So call in, join us over at jblive.tv. We'll be giving out the phone number live, and then you can call in and give us a question, give us some feedback, tell Michael how wrong he is about Firefox, something like that. And don't forget, you can also email us, coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com. All right, Mr. Dominic, where should people find you throughout the week?
Find me on Twitter and at Tumaduko and at blog.mdominic.com on the web.
It is amazing. We'll have links to those in the show notes, as well as links to my profiles in the show notes. And don't forget, you can always go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to find show times for all of our shows, as well as a link where you can convert it to a time zone in your neck of the woods. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of Coda Radio. See you right back here next week.